Rotary has a reputation for being a force for good because it's so big and it does so many things as a club. If you're thinking about Rotary, reach out to anyone you know who's in it. I'm sure they'd be happy to show you around.
If you make the point or the time in your schedule to get there, Rotary will quickly kind of get its arms around you and get you involved. So I would just encourage people who are curious or interested, attend an event, get involved and take the next step. And I think Rotary will meet you halfway and take it the rest of the way.
I've met a lot of new friends through Rotary. It's been great to meet people that you maybe are aware of, but haven't had the opportunity to sit down and break bread with, connect with new people, make good business contacts, even get some clients, as well as make a difference.
I would say it's the network. Even though we're not able to meet face-to-face in person due to the pandemic, I still think the virtual network is a strong bond.
So it's so helpful for me to learn from other Rotarians who have had different experiences than I do, have different perspectives on the issues our region is facing, and then be able to connect and share and find overlap and how we can work together.
It's like, what is your why? You look at Simon Sinek talks about it a lot. I think Rotary speaks to my why. It's going to make you a better person. You're going to be better for helping the community out.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. I am Club President Darren Miller. As we gather virtually today, we'd like to begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today, I'd like to welcome Margaret Cry, who is an attorney with Scopolitis, Garvin, Light, Hansen, and Fury, who will give our invocation today. Margaret?
Good afternoon. I cannot take credit for authorship of this invocation, nor can I give credit because I just found it on the internet, but I thought it was appropriate for today's speaker. Our Aaron Rodgers, who art in Lambo, hallowed be thy arm. Thy bowl will come, it will be won, on the road as it was in Lambo. Give us this Sunday our weekly win, and forgive the less passers, as you will not let them pass against us. And lead us not into frustration, but deliver us from rivals. For thine is the MVP, the best of the NFL, and the glory of all cheeseheads, now and forever. Go Pack Go.
Thank you for the invocation, Margaret. It's nice to have you with us today. I'd like to also say thank you to all of the Rotarians who shared their why for being a Rotarian with our Rotary Now More Than Ever video series that played before the program. We're all members of Rotary because someone asked us to join. So please think about who you know who would make a good Rotarian. We'd love to have the chance to tell them more about Rotary. Next, Patrick Fennelly, Senior Vice President and Portfolio Management Director at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, will give us an update on our RCM Scholarship Golf Classic. Patrick?
Thank you, President Darren, and good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I am thrilled to report that golf registration is filling up fast. In fact, we have only 18 spots remaining for the 2021 RCM Scholarship Golf Classic on June 7th at the Wisconsin Country Club. The slide being displayed now, it shows a list of our current sponsors for the event. Sponsors are incredibly important to the success of our outing, and on behalf of the golf committee and me, we cannot thank them enough for their generosity. This is our club's major fundraiser each year, and the proceeds are essential to the success of our scholarship program. More than $525,000 has been raised at this outing over the last 12 years. So while it's top of mind, please consider one of the following ways to join in our success. 1, sign up to play, either golf as an individual or as a foursome. 2, donate an item that could be used as part of our auction. Or 3, become a tea sponsor for $400 or double tea sponsor for $400. The slide showing now has Mary's contact information, I believe, and I'll ask you to please email or text her during the program today, and we will announce anyone who signs up for the outing, donates an auction item, or becomes a tea sponsor directly after the presentation. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all at the RCM Scholarship Golf Classic on June 7th.
Patrick, huge thank you to you and the rest of the Scholarship Golf Classic team there and committee for putting this together. It's a lot of work. It's a great event. And also thank you to all of our sponsors. Next, we are going to hear from Amy Jensen, COO and CFO of the Water Council and co-chair of the Dun and Day Committee.
Thank you, President Darren. The Rotary Club of Milwaukee has a long history of working with the members of the Johnson's Park community. This Saturday, we roll up our sleeves again and work alongside our Johnson Park friends to pick up any trash in the park, on the Brown Street playground, and any of the curbsides and medians in the general vicinity. Personally, I really enjoyed not only the cleanup last fall, but even more getting to know the person I happened to team up with for the event. We will meet at the south end of Johnson's Park at the corner of Brown and 18th at approximately 11 o'clock. The cleanup will run until 2, stay for an hour, stay for 3. We will take whatever time you have available. Cleanup materials will be provided, but it's recommended that you bring your own mask and gloves. This is a weather permitting event. Rain is the only reason the event would be canceled. So I hope to see you there.
Amy, thank you for the announcement. Rotarians, look for more information on signing up in the email that came out this morning or in the program survey email that'll come out after today's program. Next, an announcement about joining your fellow Rotarians for a virtual cup of coffee this Thursday morning, April 8th at 7:30 a.m. Check the email that came out today or contact the Rotary office for the Zoom information for that event. The Beer Connector Group is also back. Show up at the Explorium Brew Pub in the 3rd Ward on Thursday, April 22nd at 5:30 p.m. for some socially distanced beer and Rotary fun. Mark your calendars for that. This Thursday at noon for our snack program, Urban Milwaukee President Jeremy Janine will discuss strategies that his publication, Urban Milwaukee, is implementing to build a sustainable and engaging media platform in an increasingly dire media landscape. Check that out this Thursday at noon. And if you missed the earlier announcements, we are planning a return to Memorial Hall in person on May 4th. As you know, the health and safety of our members has been a top priority since the pandemic began. We pay close attention to the latest guidelines and recommendations about COVID-19 from the CDC and the health department here in Milwaukee. We're told with the vaccine becoming more widely available, it's possible to start bringing people back together again safely. Our members' opinions always shape the discussions and decisions we make here at Rotary. When we ask our members when you would feel safe coming back to in-person meetings, we learn that more and more people are ready to come back. So we are targeting May 4th and are extremely excited about our in-person meetings. Of course, we will continue to have a live stream option for those who prefer to participate from home or office. We'll keep you posted as plans firm up, and we will be asking for you to RSVP for the programming in the early weeks of our return. In the meantime, stay safe, get a vaccine, and can't wait to see you again in person. And now, Jamie Reeve, Senior Vice President, Wealth Strategies at Northern Trust Company, will be introducing our speaker for today. Jamie.
Thank you, President Darren. Good afternoon, friends, fans, and fellow Rotarians. Today, it's my honor to welcome back and introduce Mark Murphy, President and CEO of our beloved Green Bay Packers. While even casual fans are aware of the team's on-field success, not as many know the impressive work being done off the field and behind the scenes. And today, Mark will share his perspective as he leads the franchise toward its goals of winning more championships, while also addressing how the Packers are promoting social justice reforms in Wisconsin and beyond. But first, a quick primer on Mark himself. He attended college at Colgate, and he entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the then Washington Redskins, where he won a Super Bowl for legendary coach Joe Gibbs. During his playing days, he served as a team captain as well as the Redskins Players Union representative. After his playing career ended, Mark earned his law degree as well as an MBA. He served 16 years as director of athletics for both Colgate University and Northwestern. And he was an assistant executive director of the NFL Players Association, as well as a trial attorney for the U.S. Department of Justice. Already 13 years ago, it seems hard to believe, but 13 years ago, he returned to professional football when he was hired to lead the Packers as its president and CEO. And during the tenure so far, he's led the Packers back to another Super Bowl victory, thus returning the Lombardi Trophy properly to 1265. Importantly, Mark has led key hiring for the club, including naming Brian Gutekunst its general manager and hiring Matt LaFleur as head coach a couple off seasons ago. And when Mark last visited our club in 2016, he shared his vision for the Titletown development surrounding Lambeau Field. Anyone who's been there since sees the fruits of his labors. And of course, successfully navigating through last year's pandemic season, both for the club and the league, Mark's steady guidance helped steer safely through a myriad of challenges. Rotarians, Packer fans, heck, even Bears fans, if you like, please join in welcoming back to our club, President and CEO of the Green Bay Packers, Mark Murphy.
Thank you, Jamie. It's great to be back, albeit virtually, but really enjoyed it. And obviously, Milwaukee's such an important city and market for us. I think we talked about in 2016, I think we had just opened our Milwaukee office, and that's really worked well for us. And Jamie, you did such a good job on my background. Maybe I'll just highlight a couple things. You mentioned my involvement in the Players Union. That really kind of shaped me. I had kind of grown up around labor relations. I grew up in the Buffalo, New York area. My father was a director of labor relations for a steel company in Buffalo, so I'd kind of grown up around it. And early in my career with I'll tell you, I have to tell you one story. It's kind of my welcome to the NFL moment. My rookie year, I can't say Washington Redskins anymore, it's the Washington football team. The head coach was a man named George Allen, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, just a great coach. And back then, the draft was held over 2 days and wasn't really anything like it is now, where all these draft experts they do mock drafts, and I had no idea whether I'd be drafted or not. But the first day of the draft, I got a call from George Allen, and he said, "Mark," and we didn't have cell phones then. He called me. I think he called my apartment number, and he said, "Mark, we really like you. We want to draft you. We're going to fly you down to have you here for a press conference." And so that was the first day of the draft. And so I flew down to Washington that night, and they put me up at a hotel. And I kept thinking, well, when am I going to get drafted? Make a long story short, the Redskins had no interest in drafting me, and they hid me out. And so there were about 5 of us that they anticipated or guessed wouldn't be drafted. And so first thing in the morning, they put us in a van, and we were out at Dulles Airport, and they drove us all the way down to Washington, D.C., and kept showing us all the monuments and beautiful sights of downtown Washington. And the driver kept stopping and going to a payphone and making a call. And as soon as the draft ended, they pulled into the Redskins practice facility, and George Allen came in and said, "Mark, I hope you sign that contract." And then he turned to his assistant and said, "If Mark doesn't sign that contract, let's get that safety from Oklahoma we like so much." So that was my introduction to the NFL, and probably one of the reasons I decided to get involved in the Players Union. Kind of a funny story. I loved playing for George Allen. And over the years, I got to know his son, Bruce Allen, who was an executive. He ended up being president of the Washington football team. And just out of curiosity, I said to Bruce once, "Hey, did your father ever tell you what he did to me the day of the draft?" And Bruce said, "Quit complaining. It worked out all right for you." So I really did enjoy my involvement with the Players Association. We used to say being involved with the Players Association was kind of like smoking. It wasn't good for your health. So if you were involved with the union back then, you probably shortened your career. And as I look back on it, I think it did shorten my career, but the benefits definitely outweighed the risks. And I learned an awful lot. And I'll just share one story. One of the things that a lesson I've kind of learned over the years is, to build bridges, not burn them. And during those negotiations, when I was on the collective bargaining team for the PA, I was vice president of the Players Association. And, we had some difficult negotiations. In 1982, we went on strike for 57 days. We were striking for a percentage of the gross revenue, which the players get now, but at the time was a real foreign concept. And a young attorney that was on the other side from Washington, he lived in Washington, D.C., young attorney in Washington, was a Redskins season ticket holder. And he and I struck up a friendship, even though we were on opposite sides of the table in the bargaining. Fast forward, number of years, I became the athletic director at Colgate, and that young attorney was Paul Tagliabue, and he became the commissioner. And Paul called me up and said, "Mark, I want to get you more involved in the league." And there were a couple advisory committees. He got me involved in the youth football committee. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be in my position now were it not for Paul Tagliabue. So I had a long career as an athletic director at both Colgate and Northwestern. Loved my time at Northwestern. I'd been there about 5 years when the Packers contacted me. Bob Harlan had resigned, and if you remember, a man named John Jones was selected to serve as successor to become the president. But John Jones had some health issues, and so was not able to take on the position. So they ended up doing a search. And actually, another good example of a connection or a networking. There was the person that ran the search was a man named Jed Hughes. Does a lot of searches in athletics and professional football. And Jed and he coached in the league when I played. He was a defensive back coach for the Vikings. And so he and I had a common background. He and I served on an NCAA committee together that was kind of charged with increasing the number of African-American coaches across the NCAA. And so he and I had kind of struck up a friendship. And so when I was been at Northwestern about 4.5 years, when he called me up and said, the Packers have a position open. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah, I'd be interested, but thinking, the odds of that happening are pretty slim. But, as the search went along, so this was back in 2007, the NFL and the Packers were coming up to the end of a collective bargaining agreement. So I think my background with the NFL Players Association was viewed as a positive. And, as the search went along, throughout the fall, I was very, very fortunate to be named as the president of the Packers. As Jamie said, it's been over 13 years now. I'm going into my 14th year. And, I would say, it's always disappointing when you don't win the Super Bowl. Only one team finishes the season and feeling good about the way the season ended. And, but I've been as I look back on it, I think, from both a football and a business standpoint, we've had consistent success. And, on the business side, Jamie mentioned Titletown. We're very proud of that. In some ways, we're like other developers, we went around and we looked and we've seen what other teams have done around their stadiums. We're particularly interested in what the New England Patriots did around their stadium. They're actually in an area that's kind of smaller than Green Bay. They're not in Boston. They're in Foxborough, kind of like a suburb of Boston. But their development is what's called Patriot Place. And we like parts of it, but it was really more like a big mall right next to the stadium. And what we wanted with Titletown was to really have something that was more inviting for the public and more of a, that would really be a destination for people to come And so we started buying land around Lambeau Field kind of early in my tenure. And yeah, if you haven't been up to Green Bay recently, the Titletown, we've been very fortunate that the construction has continued during the pandemic. So, and I can talk about some of the kind of the initial tenants, but we have an office tower that's going to be open fairly soon. That construction on that's continued. It's only 6 stories high, but we joke only in Green Bay is 6 stories high enough to be considered a tower. But that's going to be a really, really nice place for people to work. Also, we've got an apartment complex with 150 units that we think will be really popular. And then we're building anywhere from 50 to 70 townhouses. So it'll be a place where, and we're going to continue to build, but ideally Titletown is going to be a place where people can live and work and play. Our initial tenants, it's the Hinterland Restaurant and Brewery, Lodge Kohler, obviously you all know Kohler, and then Bellin Health Sports Medicine Clinic. And then what's really unique, and unlike I think any developer, right in the middle of Titletown, we put a 100-yard football field, and it's artificial surface, and you walk over there any time of the day, and it's packed with kids. And we have footballs available, and kids playing pickup, flag football, and just having fun. We have a huge playground there, and we studied all the playgrounds in the area and put in things that were not available already. You can run the 40-yard dash and be timed, just like you're at the combine. And then a couple other things that are unique. We have a straight skating trail and a skating rink, really popular in the winter. And then we have a tubing hill. So it's something, we did a lot of, and I think most of we're a community-owned team. And for us, giving back and supporting the community is really at our core. And so we did a lot of focus groups with, different people across the Green Bay region. And what kept coming up was, the winters are long in Green Bay. Is there something you can do to help us get outside and be active in the winters? And that really was kind of the impetus for not only the skating trail and the skating rink, but the tubing hill. And this year with the pandemic, that was again one of the few things that you could do safely, and that's really been nice to see. And the other thing as well, and Lambeau Field, I mean, obviously that's at the core of everything. And we're very proud of Lambeau Field. We think it's the most iconic stadium in the NFL. It's obviously on the bucket list for a lot of people to be able to see games there. And so, we've continued to invest in Lambeau Field. We did a major renovation in 2003. And then 2011, we renovated the south end zone, added about 8,000 seats. We're actually now, and we've kind of gone against the grain. We're the second largest stadium in the NFL behind MetLife Stadium in New York. But we continue, and we want to make sure that the team stays in Green Bay and stays competitive, and continuing to invest not only in the stadium itself, but the football facilities and the area around it. We're really, we've had some great events, and looking ahead, we're making a big push. We put a bid to host the NFL draft in 2024. I think that would be great for the state. We've hosted the Notre Dame, we hosted the LSU Wisconsin game, and we're supposed to host the Notre Dame Wisconsin game this past fall, but that'll be in 2026. And the other thing we've been on is hosting the Big Ten championship game at Lambeau Field. So, I think with Titletown is built out and Lambeau Field, and if you haven't been up to Green Bay recently, the old Brown County Memorial Auditorium has been torn down. We have a brand new Resch Expo Hall, which will really help people coming into the community and help us bring more people into the Green Bay area. On the football side, obviously, winning the Super Bowl in 2010 was the highlight. But one of the things that I've been really proud of is it's hard to have consistent success in the NFL because the rules are all designed so that, if you have a bad year, you get better draft picks, you have an easier schedule. So for us to win on a consistent basis has been challenging, but we've been able to do it. Obviously we had a stretch. We made the playoffs 8 years in a row. That's a record for the Packers from 2009 through 2016. And then obviously we had a couple down years in 2017 and 18, and decided to make a couple changes over the years there. One, first, Ted Thompson. Ted, I think, is one of the most misunderstood people in Green Bay. He just did a phenomenal job for us. When you look at what he was able to build and the consistent success we had, he was at the core of it. But he had some pretty serious health issues, so ended up putting him in more of an advisory role. Wanted to really be fair to him, and as we mentioned earlier, ended up hiring Brian Gutekunst, and I've really been pleased with the job that he does. And when we did that, I restructured things within football a little bit different. I know our media makes a big deal of it, but our general manager, the head coach, and then I promoted a man named Russ Ball, who's really a key employee for us. He handles all of our negotiations, and particularly with the salary cap now. And this year has really been challenging. I don't know how closely a lot of you follow it, but the salary cap this year for the first time went down almost. It was over 15 million. So players all want more money. So trying to figure out how to squeeze everybody under the salary cap has been a real challenge. So all three of them report to me. I like to say although everybody reports up through me, I'm not making the football decisions, they are. So it's a little different, but I think the advantages that I see is that what I had seen before is there had really been kind of a wall between football, the coaches, and personnel. And I think this has helped improve communications. And then, after the 2018 season, decided to make a coaching change with Mike McCarthy, and that was difficult. Mike obviously had great success here, and I'm sure he'll be in our Hall of Fame at some point, but really just felt that a change was needed, and ended up doing a pretty extensive search, and ended up hiring Matt LaFleur. And so Matt has completed 2 seasons, and I've been really pleased. I think Matt's really brought a lot of energy, and has quickly turned things around. For the last 2 years, we've been had identical records. We were 13-3 both years, won the NFC North, and got to the NFC Championship game. This year was really disappointing though, because we really felt like we had it all lined up. That we were at home, we had the #1 seed, and just couldn't give credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And obviously Tom Brady is a great winner, but we had our chances and just couldn't make the plays. And this year was such a strange year, with the pandemic. And but I'm really proud of the way we handled it as an organization. I think Matt and his coaches really deserve a lot of credit. It really, as a league, to be able to, we're the only professional league that played a full schedule during the pandemic. We were, I would say, and we had a great relationship with our local health authorities. And we wanted to have fans, you wanted to have that home field advantage, but you also wanted to make sure that you were really careful and didn't put any of our fans or players at risk. And the league really put together a lot of good protocols. And we ended up, during the regular season, we didn't host any paid fans. We did over the last few games of the season. We had invited guests just to try to see if we could test out the protocols, and we felt confident in those. And then for the 2 playoff games, we had, I think right around 10 to 11,000. So kind of pales in comparison to 82,000, but we're at least able to have people in the stand. The other thing I'd say, obviously, this is a really busy time of year for us. We're getting ready for the draft. Don't believe all the draft experts and the mock drafts, but Brian's really doing a good job, and he and his staff. A little different this year was last year, the combine's normally held the last week in February. That was kind of the last thing that the NFL did, and then everything shut down. And then everything, the draft was all done virtually. This year, it did not. They're having a combine later. I think it's really just medical issues. So our doctor and our head trainer will go down, and they'll be able to do medical evaluations of, I think, top 149 players. But so, and then without that time at the combine, what all of our Brian and his staff is doing, they're flying across the country now, going to different pro days. And this is going to be really interesting because there were an awful lot of players who opted out of playing during the season. And so, they didn't play this year. You're looking at film from 2019. So it's going to be a challenging year, and it's probably going to be some mistakes made both directions, drafting people higher than they should have and then missing out on others. So I think, the work that Brian and his staff done, I always felt Ted and now Brian, that we have an advantage over most teams in terms of the systems that we put in place. Just quickly in terms of coaching, obviously Matt's got a relatively new staff. This is going into his third year, but even though we've had success, I do give Matt credit. He's made some difficult decisions this past year and made some coaching changes. First of all, our defensive coordinator decided to make a change from Mike Pettin and hired Joe Barry, somebody that he's worked with before, and Matt feels strongly that he'll be an upgrade. And we also made a change at special teams, promoting Mo Drayton, who's been with us for a couple of years. So, I guess, free agency, I hear from a lot of fans, why are you more active in free agency? We've been hearing that for years. This year, we just didn't have a lot of room. And our priority really was to bring back as many of our players, our best players. And, we ended up, I think 20 of our 22 starters are coming back. A couple that we lost. Probably the biggest loss was Corey Lindsley, who was an all-pro center and just a great leader, great person. It's just the way the cap works in the NFL. You have to make difficult decisions, and we made a decision early on to make David Bakhtiari the highest paid left tackle in the league, and you really can't put too much money into certain positions, the offensive line. A priority for us was keeping Aaron Jones. I think he's developed into a real difference maker, and really looking forward to that. I probably would be remiss. I just mentioned a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's been a great player for us, and we want him to remain our quarterback. And we're hopeful that will be the case. And talked to the media last week just about, we had a league conference call. And we approved a number of things, including increasing the season from 16 regular season games to 17. That was a difficult one. I do worry about the wear and tear on players' bodies, but I think for the good of the game long term, our preseason is just not preseason games are not a high quality product. And we really don't need 4 preseason games. So I thought that was a positive move. But in terms of Aaron, and what I told the media is, well, this call wasn't about Aaron, and but also I'm not going to get into and comment on ongoing negotiations. So that really was that issue. You know, the other thing I would say before I open it up, obviously the last year or two, there's been a lot of publicity around the NFL, around social justice issues, diversity, equity, inclusion, and you know, I give our players credit. I think they're willing to. The easy thing would be to not get involved in these issues, but you know, they see the systemic racism that impacts them, and so we're very supportive of our players. You know, some of the and obviously we know that a number of our fans feel strongly that you know, that the players should not be speaking out. Kind of the old, I think in the NBA they say shut up and dribble. But we're fully supportive of our players' rights to speak out, and I think particularly for us, and this is where our players have really, and they have a lot of connections with other professional athletes in the state, you know, between the Bucks and the Brewers, and we have great relations with them. We were talking earlier, really proud of the connections that we've made with those organizations through our, what we call the Equity League. And that's with, through part of Titletown that I didn't mention is Titletown Tech. That's the building right next to the Hinterland Restaurant and Brewery. And Titletown Tech is our partnership with Microsoft. And through that, we're investing in all kinds of companies and really doing well. But then related and kind of an offshoot of that is what we call the Equity League. And that is something specifically where we're investing not only in African-American owned or minority owned companies, but also companies that will help remove barriers for African-Americans. You know, and the other thing, obviously, I think the situation in Kenosha with Jacob Blake really kind of brought it to a head. And that was during the middle of training camp, and we ended up canceling our practice that day. And I met with the entire team and all the players, and we talked through what kind of things we could do as an organization to bring light to a lot of these issues that have, quite honestly, we faced for years and years. And you know, and so was happy to do that. And you know, I think as we look forward, hopefully we've invested or we've made donations to a number of organizations that we think are helping to make a difference in on some of these social justice. So I've rambled on, but I see we've got a few questions that have come in. I'd be happy to address any of those. I don't know if you want to.
I'll tee them up.
How we want to handle it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Great comments covering a lot of
thanks, Jamie.
Let's stay there for a little bit, perhaps. Pre 12 o'clock, a few of us were on the phone, and you were talking a little bit about the club's effort and Lambeau Field being used as a vaccination site, as well as then getting some of the team members involved with the effort to address the health disparities in communities of color. Can you share more broadly those facts and those plans with our broader audience?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I think we all want to get back to some sense of normalcy. And for us, you know, what we want is Lambeau Field full next fall. And the best way to do that is, you know, if we can get more than 85% of people in the state vaccinated, that goes a long way towards, you know, getting us back to some sense of normalcy. So we've opened up Lambeau Field as a vaccination site. It's been probably about a month now. And I tell you, just walking through it's really nice. I mean, you see so many people, and they've got smiles on their face that, you know, they finally have some hope that, you know, maybe things could change. And so we've done that, and we're going to have a number of our players do PSAs. You know, I think most recently, and you should be seeing them soon, Kenny Clark, obviously a all-pro defensive lineman for us, and Elton Jenkins, one of the best offensive linemen in the league, are both going to do PSAs encouraging people to get vaccinated. I think it's, and, the reality is African Americans are, a higher percentage of African Americans are reluctant to get the vaccine. Whether they've had problems in the past, and I know there's a history there, but, I think everything we can do to show people that the vaccine is safe, it's effective. We're going to do everything we can to get all people vaccinated. And obviously, in the state of Wisconsin now, it's open to 16 and above. So, and we've told our employees it's easy. I just walk downstairs, and so we're doing everything we can. And that's it's an issue at the league level. We can't require players to get vaccinated, but we can strongly encourage. And some of the things we've talked about is if you get a high, let's say you get 85% of your team, your players and staff and coaches vaccinated, then the protocols that we put in place wouldn't have to apply to them. So, for instance, they wouldn't have to get tested every single day. They wouldn't have to, do all the other things that we had a tracking device so that if you got within 6 feet of someone else, it started beeping, and so there's all different things, and they were effective. But it really, I know that our players would really like it if, because you imagine our players, they love to go away, do different things on the weekends, in the off season, but to have to be tested every day, it's like a tether that you just can't get away. I think, some of society, whether you have to, in order to fly, whether you have to have a vaccine, different things that, states and the country's looking at.
Maybe of that personal player platform, we know the dangers of hero worship, but you're reflecting the benefits, the opportunities. And this next question comes from our member, Franklin Cumberbatch from Bader Philanthropies. Your career in sports demonstrates the importance of great coaching and developing young lives. How can the Packers be helpful developing young people from low-income families in Milwaukee?
Well, I'd say a couple things. When again I mentioned some of the nonprofit organizations that we've supported, particularly focused on education. One of the real problems, and it's really been exposed, I think, this past year, is the digital divide. That Black families don't have the same access to Wi-Fi and internet capabilities, and that's a real issue. And so I know we've worked with some different organizations to help address that. The other thing, obviously, that we support strongly is youth football, youth sports. And one of the best things for youth is staying active. Number one, the physical benefits, but I know just from having played football and having my son who ended up playing in college as well, you see the benefits, the lessons that you learn, life lessons, and how that benefits you. One of the things, and then, this is kind of getting off subject, but one of the problems I see is the focus on sport specialization or at an early age. And, I really think, the more that you can really talk to young people about playing different sports and getting involved in different things and different activities, not just sports, but having a broader perspective than, just playing AAU basketball year round. And because, having been an athletic director for as long as I was, you kind of see the downside of that, kind of the burnout. Don't get me started on crazy parents. There's parents that think their son's going to be the next LeBron James, and just the pressure that you see some of the parents put on their kids.
Maybe jumping topic slightly, Jonas is asking, what are you thinking about overseas games? And more recently, it sounds like the Packers will be asked to play a game overseas and maybe forego some of that local revenue.
Yeah, no. Well, right now we're the only NFL team that has not played a international. I think going way back, the Packers played a international game, I think in China, but it was a preseason game. But yeah, we're very supportive of the league's efforts, but we were not willing to volunteer and give up a home game because relative to all the other cities, the economic impact of a home game in Green Bay is so significant that we were not willing to do it. But under the new TV deal and what was voted on at our league meeting, with the move to 17 games, every other year, one conference will have 9 home games. So in a year when we have 9 home games, the league is going to require one division to give up all of their home games for that year. So sometime over the next 8 years, and well, actually it wouldn't start till 2022. Over an 8-year period, every team will give up that 9th home game, and technically it'll be a neutral site game. So we sometime in the next 9 years we will be playing a game in London. And, it's disappointing. We'll still have 8 regular season home games, but only 1 preseason game. But I think for the good of the league and the good of our fan interest, particularly building fan bases outside the United States. I think it's positive for the league, and I think actually for our fans, I know a lot of our fans would love to travel to London to be able to see a game there and make it part of an overall vacation. And I also this is kind of crazy to think of this, but when you're a football player at a high level, you really don't get most college students have a study abroad experience, but college football players, they play in the fall, they have spring football in the spring, and they're usually stay on campus in the summers. So for our players to be able to have that experience to travel to London, it's kind of, looking ahead, some of the countries, you could see games being played in Germany, Australia, Brazil, China. There's a lot of 7 different countries that the league is exploring. And right now it's really just Mexico City and London. The other thing that we're looking at is potentially having games in Canada. The issue there is, you're with the CFL, you want to make sure that you're not, we have a good working relationship with the CFL and want to make sure we're not, damaging them in any way.
Great, thank you. We've got questions with a similar theme. One from our member, Michael Shepard, who happens to be 50% of the NFLPA endorsed advisors. What sort of financial literacy advice does the league mandate, require, provide for the players? And then in addition to financial, we're seeing headlines, unfortunately, for players in all leagues, athletes getting into trouble for social media whoopses and worse. What does the league mandate, and what are the Packers doing in those sorts of efforts as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. This goes back, when I was a player, and then after my career ended, I worked for the Players Association. And boy, back then, there really were no rules or guidelines for agents, and we saw a lot of agents really, take advantage of young players. And so the agent certification program has been a big improvement. The other thing that we do, and it sounds like that's what he's involved with, is you're also certifying financial planners. And, so it's done through the league and then the clubs, but then also the Players Association, in terms of financial planning. One of the best things we can do for our players, and only about a third of our players have their college degrees. And so one of the things that we really push, and we have a man his name is Gray Rugemer, and he's our director of player engagement, former Packer. And these are you're talking about, the reality is if to get to the NFL, you've been heavily focused on football. 2/3 of the players don't have degrees. So you really, and a lot of them have over the years have been very dependent on their agents. And the reality is, once your career ends, that agent is not going to be there. And so what we've really focused on is, helping the players make good decisions while they're playing, and then particularly helping them make that transition from, when their careers end. And, a big part of it is if you don't have your degree, a lot of our players are like a semester short, go back, and with online programs now, it's not that hard to finish your degree. And the longer you put it off, the harder it is to go back and get your degree. But it's more than that. It's, and the other thing is, so many of them, have either girlfriends or spouses, and they need to be a part of the process too, in terms of financial education, and, just things that we all kind of take for granted, paying your bills, paying the rent. Should you buy a house or should you rent? Things of that nature. And, you have to be careful. I don't think, you don't want to say you got to do this, but we do provide advice and counseling.
How does that then also extend to codes of conduct and media training, if you will?
Oh yeah, now we do a lot of that, and that is really, the social media just changed everything so quickly. And our director of communications, Jason Waller, is our actually vice president of communications. He does an annual, and it starts, when right after the draft, we'll have all the drafted rookies and everybody that we sign, we'll have them in, and it's really, just kind of an orientation, all the things that they can expect. But we do the same thing with the entire team, particularly talk about social media and how are they going to deal with our media. The media has changed so much now. Anybody can be a Packer media member. I mean, if you have your own blog, you can write. Used to be, all right, you're with the news station or you're with the paper, that's it. It's quite a bit broader now.
I'll point out I went to college with your Mike Spofford.
Oh, okay.
One of our guests is really—
He's one of the good ones. Well, that's the other thing. We have our own media members, and and they, it's, so you have the NFL, NFL.com, NFL Network, and then like for us, Packers.com, and our Wes and Mike Spofford. They do a great job, and it's kind of a fine line. You want to be objective, but we're not. They're not going to be writing columns critical about decisions that we've made.
Well, speaking of decisions, one of our guests wants to know: is there any chance that Jeopardy will be filmed in the Lambeau Atrium?
That would be great. I don't know. Well, it's funny. I guess I think it's filmed in LA, probably. But yeah, and I think they do 5 shows a day. So that would be, if he becomes a permanent host, that would be nice.
Certainly, the Rabid fans have been reading all about it leading to yesterday's kickoff. That was quite fun. All right, final question, I think, and then we'll let you get back to your club-related duties. Thank you again for joining us today, Mark.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's been my pleasure.
Obviously, you've led the club through unprecedented times in the last year, the pandemic and its myriad of interests and needs. What is the biggest challenge, or perhaps the biggest unexpected silver lining that you or the club has experienced coming out of it?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge has been communication, and and I don't really consider myself technologically very savvy, but I think we've all learned that we can do things differently. I think particularly, I think at the league level, although I should say I do miss in-person meetings, but when you think about bringing 30, people from 32 different teams, and what we fly everybody into, essentially either Chicago or Atlanta or Dallas. And the fact that we can do it effectively by Zoom or Microsoft Teams, I think we all learn a lot that, there are things that we can do that, maybe we don't have to all fly everybody in and have that kind of money. That said, though, I do miss, there are advantages to meeting in person, but I think we've all learned that we're being flexible and adaptable has its benefits.
Well, thank you very much again, Mark. President Miller, I yield back to you, sir.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate all the effort with the Q&A. Mark, again, we really appreciate you taking the time out of what arguably is one of the busiest parts of your season to spend an hour with us this afternoon. A true treat. And of course, it could never be lost on this audience or anyone in our state for that matter, the many great things that the Packers organization does for Green Bay, for the state, and all of our communities. So thank you again. We're all wishing you and the team, of course, a successful and probably most importantly, a healthy season. So in honor of community leaders like yourself, Mark, who speak to our club members, we'll be making a donation to the YWCA Southeast Wisconsin, whose mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Darren and Jamie. Take care.
Problem.
Have a good day.
And this just in, we're going to make an announcement about recent additions to our golf sponsorship. So bear with me. The Dorsner Phillips Ristow Group just bought a blue sponsorship at the $1,000 level. So thank you to them for that. Terry McMahon donated a sail on his beautiful boat. So hope to see all of you bidding on that at the golf outing. And then Bill Levitt will also be donating a tea sponsorship. So this is a great event. It's been a lot of fun the last few years. Appreciate everybody stepping up, all of our sponsors, the golf committee for their work on that. So look forward to joining you all there. Next Tuesday, join us to welcome Ellen Krency, CEO, and Kate Sanders, Chief Planning Officer, for their vision regarding the new Milwaukee Public Museum. Its new design and experience will reflect the intersection of nature and culture, bringing these two very integrated and important elements together in a location that will serve as a gateway to our city. That should be a fantastic program. Looking forward to that. We will be ending our program today with our Rotary Now More Than Ever video series. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Our meeting is adjourned.
Rotary has a reputation for being a force for good because it's so big and it does so many things as a club. If you're thinking about Rotary, reach out to anyone you know who's in it. I'm sure they'd be happy to show you around.
If you make the point or the time in your schedule to get there, Rotary will quickly kind of get its arms around you and get you involved. So I would just encourage people who are curious or interested, attend an event, get involved, and take the next step. And I think Rotary will meet you halfway and take it the rest of the way.
I've met a lot of new friends through Rotary. It's been great to meet people that you maybe are aware of, but haven't had the opportunity to sit down and break bread with, connect with new people, make good business contacts, even get some clients, as well as make a difference.
I would say it's the network. Even though we're not meeting, not able to meet face-to-face in person due to the pandemic, I still think the virtual network is a strong bond.
So it's so helpful for me to learn from other Rotarians who have had different experiences than I do, have different perspectives on the issues our region is facing, and then be able to connect and share and find overlap and how we can work together.
Like, what is your why? You know, you look at Simon Sinek talks about it a lot. You know, I think Rotary speaks to my why. It's going to make you a better person. You're going to be better for helping the community out.